Hey, welcome to Scry-fi. We are talking about Strange New Worlds, Episode 7, Season 2. The weirdest one yet. Probably in all of Star Trek. I think it's...
Yeah, I don't know if there's been anything quite as meta or surreal as an animation interface. But
yeah, this is the one where the animation... Oh, spoilers, by the way, for Episode 7. Called Old Scientists, I believe.
Yeah, you'll want to watch it before.
Of course, there's spoilers all over the internet for this one. I knew it was coming last year when I went to Comic-Con because they announced it. But I've been waiting for it, and it's finally here.
I knew it was coming, but I didn't know when. So when I actually saw it, I was like, oh, okay. I thought it was later.
I also didn't know if they were going to do the animation to real stuff. Like, it's one thing to... I thought they were going to do like a animation show, like Lower Decks is playing. They have an episode where he just gets sucked into a portal at the end of it. And then they would start this one all realistic and portal.
But to actually mix the animation with the...
Right.
At first, I thought what you were saying is you didn't know if they were going to do it like Roger Rabbit, where he's animated, but they're not.
Oh, that would have been the worst way to do it.
That's too much. That would be too much. That would really... you'd have to just consider that whole episode.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't want to be... I don't want to be one of those fans that like gripes about it and stuff like that or anything, because I love this series. It's one of my favorite series so far, really.
You mean both series or Strange New Worlds?
I mean, yeah, for Strange New Worlds. I also really like Lower Decks, but Lower Decks was in its own world of...
Yeah, I mean, it's so goofy that it's hard to believe that that's really stuff being said in Star Trek. But you could at least say, well, maybe all that's canon is that there's a future and those characters exist, and we're seeing a over-the-top rendition of things in the animated show.
Yeah, and it's like, it would have been almost more easier to like just take in if this was a Lower Decks episode.
Although, like have the live action come into Lower Decks. That probably would have made more sense. But
and all of that aside, I still really laughed and enjoyed the episode. And I don't think they should have not done it or something like that.
No, I think it was fun. It was good. Yeah. They hinted at some stuff that was like, oh, you guys look so ridiculous. And then when the other guys at the end were on the strange Orion T that had weird effects, everything looks two-dimensional, I mean, it's pushing it, but you can imagine that could be
like, did they push it a little bit too far for my comfort? Yeah, but I'm still okay with it.
Well, when you combine it though with the fact that next time is supposed to be, I don't know if it's next time, but coming up soon is going to be a musical one apparently. I was saying to somebody, it looks like Orville and Star Trek have swapped places because Orville became much more serious, and now this. But I think they're just having some fun. They're going to go back to some. I bet that the season finale, and as it gets close to I bet there's going to be some super dramatic stuff happening later, and that's why they're doing some lighter stuff.
Yeah, now. I mean, I totally. You and I have talked about this before, where you can start off any sci-fi scenario and explain it in Star Trek. Like, you can say President Lincoln appears in space. And that can be,
and there it is. It's the Excalbians.
So while you can do that in Star Trek, there's still certain limits to where it's like it's starting to pull it out of the Star Trek universe that I love and stuff. But it's not quite there yet. I'm just worried it'll go too far. But
you don't want so much suspension of disbelief that it's just hard to take it seriously.
Right. But all that aside, I still loved the episode, enjoyed it. I've been waiting for it for a year, like I said. And, I thought, well, first of all, they really lucked out in the fact that, I don't know if it's luck, but that the characters, the voice actors look just like the characters.
I know. It's really uncanny. It's actually really cool.
I think probably what happened is that at this more. What happened is more that they probably based the look of them, off of them originally anyway. I don't know if they thought that far ahead that they would someday,
Yeah, I think it's starting to be done more and more these days that they do that. Like for example, Cal Kestis in Jedi Fallen Order video game, they didn't have to make the person doing the voice really look like the actor for that 3D model, but they did, and it gives you all the options. If you want to have a live action version of it, you can. Then
Well, they lucked out with Bo-Katan from Star Wars, right? They got
he
Katie
just happens to
Sackhoff
look
do
a
the
lot
voice.
like her. Yeah.
Well, it didn't happen to her. They got her to do the voice, and they said, might as well make it look like her, right? And so they did.
Oh, okay.
And then later on, whenever it went live action, so it's if you can pull it off, then it gives you a little more leeway.
It's probably a good idea to do whenever you can, just so you have the options.
I wonder if we didn't get the other characters that were with them only because they don't look like them. I haven't looked them up.
I don't really know what they look like. I mean, we could look them up, but that'd be interesting.
I wonder. So I mean, the story is that they find this portal on both ends of the story. He gets sucked in, as you would expect him to. And
I have to say, I really like their uniforms in live action too.
Yeah, it actually looks pretty good.
They're pretty cool, yeah. They even got. There's a time where we probably don't have a picture of it. When he's sitting on the hospital bed, you can see the soles of his shoes, and they even got that right because there's a particular pattern of red.
Oh yeah. It's like a red pattern or something like that.
With a little arrow type thing on the bottom, and they've shown it in the cartoon before, so they even remembered to do that.
I'm looking at, actually, the voice for Tindy, she could pull it off. I don't know about Eugene. Let me see. Yeah, Eugene might be able to pull it off. So they might be able to do it. But I do have pictures of him on the bed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the shoes. That's this sums up his actions on.
Yeah, right. I mean, they are much different acting people. Now, here's the question I have. So, what year is it's supposed to be the 2280s or 2380s?
I actually think he says it. I think he says it in this episode, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's after. I mean, it's in a year I think that's like earlier than Picard, but later than TNG.
Wait, are you talking about Lower Decks? What year?
Lower Decks. Lower Decks. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They're in 23.
I think it's probably sometime after Voyager, right?
I think they're in the 2380s.
Yeah.
And Picard is like 2399. And so what it makes me wonder about then is like, are all the uniforms like this for a time period in Star Trek history that just came after the Next Generation movies and before Picard? But I could have swore there was also some episodes where they of Lower Decks where they interacted with people from another ship and their uniforms were more normal looking. I don't know.
That's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I did like their uniforms, though. The uniforms were really cool.
Yeah, I like that they still have the blue highlights in his hair.
I mean, the whole hair is purple. It's great.
Yeah, purple highlights. Yeah, really cool.
Let's talk about the intro. I love that they redid the intro and the animation.
And included fun. The only differences were where they put on the creature in I think 2 shots.
It actually looks really good for animation. I was surprised. This Orion was fun.
He's fun, and what was cool about him is that I really did think he wasn't a scientist and he was just pretending to talk about science and some kind of And then at the end, when he says like that's all we ever wanted, I was like, oh, that's kind of touching. He really was a scientist that didn't like being thought of as a pirate.
I think he's a scientist who does piratey thing. Like
It's got a harder edge to him, like
they just
they'll just take the science thing
yeah,
and run with it. But they're
yeah,
still basically scientists, He's not directly trying
right.
to pirate. They just got a little, they're a little hardcore in there.
But not so scientists that they won't take some grain worth a lot of money
Yeah, and then extort for it and all
yeah.
this stuff.
So still kind of piratey, but
yeah.
The portal's kind of cool looking. Like, how many portals are they going to find on Desolate World?
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised nobody mentioned the Guardian of Forever.
Yeah.
And like, is there any relationship between these things?
They hadn't found it yet. I guess the cartoon.
Yeah, the other crew said, "Oh, it's like the Guardian." Oh, never mind.
They shouldn't know about the Guardian of Forever. To be fair, that's
it depends. I guess it would still be top secret even after all that time.
I imagine. This moment was really weird, but
where he tries to do a laugh.
Yeah, this would be the episode to introduce this concept, though, because it was so wacky.
Yeah,
to have Spock
he's
laugh.
trying to like change for Nurse Chapel.
Right.
It's kind of a interest. Oh, that's what's also interesting about this episode is that dropped within it were these things about. There was a really cool conversation in the elevator with Nurse Chapel that kind of moved the Spock Chapel thing along a little bit. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of surprising that they would put kind of pivotal character moments into this episode.
Like that. He lets her know that in the future she's not with him and that he's this great man.
Well, he didn't say she wasn't with him, just said he wasn't being emotional.
But she figured out from what he said that she isn't with him.
Really? You think?
Yeah, I think she even said something like...
I thought she just said like he shouldn't try to change for me or something because he's not supposed to be like that.
I thought she said something like, oh, so I'm not going to be with them? Or she was like, I thought we'd be together. And he was like, ooh, like I shouldn't have said something or I don't know. In any case, it's making her think like, oh, am I good for him kind of thing, So that's going to end up Ross and Racheling out.
Yeah, well, we know it eventually cools off for some reason.
This was a funny moment whenever Spock just starts walking away. And he's like,
I guess he's just like, take cover and walks away. What?
He's like, should I run? Definitely.
Yeah, there's moments like that having no emotional rise is actually misleading because you don't realize that you're in a dire situation quick enough.
No, you look so calm as you go running for. Oh.
Yeah. That's hilarious. What's he doing there? Fun. I forgot that part.
Him poking him. Oh yeah, because he goes computer in program and they're like, never mind.
They should really be doing that in a lot of Star Trek scenes where weird stuff is going on.
Anytime, yeah.
But they have been pretty good about that. I remember there was an episode of TNG where Picard wakes up and he's in some weird place and he goes, computer in program, he's the same thing.
Just once it'd be funny if it worked. And Romulus, we forgot to turn off the thing.
They carry Picard while he's sleeping. They carry his whole bed into the holodeck and make him think that it's just as a joke. Can you imagine the practical jokes you could play with a holodeck?
Oh, man. Oh, I'm sure it happens on like Starfleet Academy all the time.
Oh, and then we got to remove his privileges to be able to tell the holodeck commands. Then when he says freeze program and all, it won't work. You'd be paranoid all the time. Am I in the holodeck or not?
So this is a cool scene where she starts geeking out about Uhura, and
kind of weird that they let Uhura know she's supposed to be like a big deal.
I mean, they're all starting to get the fact that they're all supposed to be a big deal whenever they're like, oh, the Pike Museum or whatever they were talking about.
Well, they're the crew of the Enterprise, which is supposed to be real prestigious and the flagship and all that. So I guess they know that at least.
Or Pike's birthday was a holiday.
Mhm.
That's insane. I don't know if I would have expected Pike's birthday to be a holiday. Like
Well,
Pike's supposed to be a really awesome guy and stuff, but
yeah.
I never got the feeling that he was supposed to be any
Well,
more
we
on.
haven't seen all his adventures,
That's
all the
true.
things he's done. So I'm sure it ends up being great because there's a show about him now. So
It is pretty neat to see the low confidence young Uhura not, not the strong,
yeah,
confident person that she is, but is being told that she will be and all that stuff.
a lot
Yeah,
of them are not quite the people we know yet, but
right.
are moving in that direction. So that's cool. You want to give them an arc. There was a really neat scene in here where uh, Boimler is talking to Pike, and um, he kind of starts to touch on like stuff bad that's going to happen to him, and then Pike says like, "Oh, I already know," and they said, "Wait, you know?" And then he says something, and then Pike quickly changes it into something about his dad or something. I forget what it was, but he started to tell them that he knows what's going to happen, but then he shifts off of it and doesn't actually tell them that. So it's almost like he's not sure if they're supposed to know that he knows the future. It was like this double take back kind of thing going
Yeah.
on. I almost need to watch that scene again because that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, he kind of just they go, and he just kind of brushes past it and continues the conversation that they were on, which is, he uses his father as like an example to give them advice and stuff. But
Yeah, he kind of tried to turn it into like saying, "I know something else about
right,
blah blah blah," or yeah, there's real interesting little subtle things going on in that scene.
during that scene kind of thing, right?
Uh huh.
Yeah. Yeah, there were a lot of fun part. You said before we started recording that this didn't feel like a heavy plot. Like, then this happened, then this happened. It was really like
Yeah.
a lot of fun scenes of basically them
Yeah.
together. I mean, they had the Orion steal the portal, and they found the portal, and that's it. That's
Plot
what the
wise, it was very basic, very simple, but that was just to give enough time for them to have a bunch of scenes to say and
yeah.
funny things as they interact with the crew. So I guess you couldn't fit in too many complex plot things going on if you're going
Yeah.
to do that. Just
I did
fine.
think, by the way, speaking about Orions, I love
Yes.
their
Oh, I
ship.
want we can't see right now because our faces are in front of the ship behind them.
Hold on, let me adjust it. There you go.
Okay. So what was cool about this? Let me go over for the audience who don't know is this whole Orion thing. Okay. So um, they talk about so in the original series, I think the first time we hear about the Orions is in Journey to Babel,
Mm-hmm.
where there's an Orion spy pretending to be somebody else. And then in that episode, originally, in the original effects of the TOS series, the spaceship just looked like a dot of light and it kept moving past real fast. And the dot of light looked like a glare, and the glare was like spinning like this. So that was the whole effect, just the spinning glare. The ship was too far away, and so you didn't ever see anything more than that. And then when they did the special effects upgrade to the original series, they made the Orion ship more detailed, and they made it look like that little cutout that I show over Pike's shoulder there. I've superimposed it. That's the shot from the original series episode with the special effects upgrade. And what's interesting about that is that they purposely designed that ship so that it's like, okay, here's a ship. There's more detail to it, but we're going to put these lights in it that spin like this, so that it's reminiscent of that spark that you saw in the original effects. Like you could imagine this ship further away would look like the simplistic
Right.
spinning star that they showed in the original effects. So then when they go to make the Orion ship here in this episode, they also have the ring with the lights that spin around. This one's got like a double layer to it. It's a bigger ship. It looks like the other one was supposed to be a small scout anyway, so that makes sense. But it's really cool that they keep that same design lineage
Yeah.
from the two, and you can see the comparison.
Yeah, the attention to detail in this series is amazing. Even in a goofy one like this, they went back, they really paid attention,
Mm-hmm.
they really cared. It's really great to see. That this is what I chose for the thumbnail for this episode because this kind of
This almost looks like a behind the scenes shot, like it's not
I know,
actually in the show.
I know, but yeah. Yeah, so it was weird to start off everything like this in the
Yeah.
animation. I think, like I said at the beginning, um, I think it would have been better had they kept the animation in the animation series and then real in this one kind of thing and just had them go back and forth between episodes. But,
Yeah.
you know,
It's one of those things that's so fun that it's almost worth it just to kind of accept
sure.
it. And as long as they do go back to being serious, they don't change what Trek is,
Right.
just
Yeah.
have kind of a sidestep.
This scene where they all get drunk on the Orion stuff to make them feel like they're this and they have an excuse to animate them for fun. I mean,
Yeah.
that was
Say
definitely
things look
meta.
weird.
Yeah, it's just that's definitely the producers just wanted to see them all animated and see how fun they could have with that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
By the way, can you go back to that?
yeah.
It's not really about the animation here, but I mean, you can see this in the ones that aren't animated. But why is a number one the only one who gets to have those cool little black sections on her uniform on the sides? I think that
Oh,
would
yeah.
be cool on all of them. But
Is it with? Well, maybe it's just with the dress.
yeah, if you wear the dress version, maybe that's
Yeah.
right. I don't know.
Because we saw on a episode a while back that we saw a male was wearing the dress too, and I
Yeah, and I
wonder.
don't remember if it had the black on it or not.
Yeah,
Interesting.
this was funny. I think you told me, or Jolie told me, or somebody about the fact that the voice for Captain Ransom is married to Rebecca Romaine, the number
Plays
one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
That's
that's
really
why
cool.
he's like, "Ooh, that's the hottest one," or something like that.
I never realized that before either.
Yeah, that's great. It's such a fun little detail.
You think they would have involved him more in the episode then?
Sure. I don't know what he looks like in real life.
Mm.
Yeah, just a really weird. The funniest thing is they did such a good job of making them all look like themselves in this animation that for just a split second, whenever they came into this part of the animation, the first thing I saw was, let me go back to the first one. Oh, I didn't show it, but the first thing I saw was Nurse Chapel, and I thought that was just Nurse Chapel. Like just for an instant, because they did it so well, her face and everything. Not maybe not in that shot, but
Yeah, that's cool. It almost looks like the ship is live action. Is it?
no, I think it's just well shaded and everything.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because you can see in this one.
Here's an interesting design thing too. Can you go back and show the Enterprise from the outside, like some of those beginning shots? Again, it doesn't.
Animation?
Yeah, it doesn't really matter whether it's animated or not because they both look the same. But
There you go.
what's it? You got another one that's up closer to the disc, maybe?
All I have is that one.
Okay, go back.
Not very close.
So what's cool is that I don't know if it's cool. It's just interesting, but the windows on the disc they've moved up so that the window is partially on the top like that.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
part of the window. Like if here's the edge of the saucer. Wait, how am I doing this? So like here's the top of the saucer, and here's the edge, the wall of it.
Yeah.
The window comes up part way, and then it curves and comes around onto the top, which is not the original Enterprise design, but it's one of those little differences. And then when they designed the sets in the quarters, you could see the windows are like that. In one shot, they even showed that Pike's quarters are in the front.
Right. Yep.
And then so I've been watching little things like that, and noticed like there was a scene that took place in Pike's quarters, and when they showed the stars moving because they were at warp, they were moving in the proper angle if those windows were in the front of the ship. So
Yeah.
somebody's thinking about all that stuff.
Those details, yeah. Well, there are people like us that care about them. So
Yeah, we're like, the stars aren't moving at the right angle.
yeah, this whole thing, like it's okay the animation's in there, but if those stars aren't moving in the right way,
Yeah.
yeah, that's funny. I like I said, I thought it was a funny episode. I really love Lower Decks and everything, so it was great. It's pushing it a bit for me as far as like, you know,
Yeah.
where I want Trek to be in reality and stuff, but
Kind of feels like when R2D2 and C3PO would appear at the Academy Awards and stuff, but if it happened in a movie, or I don't know.
Yeah. But because it was so entertaining, so well done, still appreciate all the detail and everything they put into it. I'm fine with it. I'm not going to gripe about it or anything. I'll still say it's one of my it's still one of my favorite series so far through all of Star Trek.
Well, you know what? Because you couldn't have them appear and then not really act like themselves. Yeah. So they're talking fast and they're making quips and everything. And then at one point they say, "Have you noticed how slow everybody talks?"
Yeah, and the other ones are saying, "Why are they talking so fast?" I don't know.
Yeah, and so what's interesting about that is it reminds me of me and a friend were talking a long time ago about William Shatner's acting, and how he's like, how William Shatner's, people have imitated him and all this stuff. And we're thinking like, okay, if that was the real world or whatever, people would be like, yeah, I've met Captain Kirk. Have you ever noticed how he talks with this strange cadence? And they'd be like, yeah, he does talk kind of strange like that. It would just be a quirk of his personality. So like now I imagine Pike is like, yeah, these two people came in the future. They had a very weird way of talking,
Yeah. I saw they did something. They mentioned his hair again, the Pike's peak, as a lot of people call it.
His cool hair. Yeah.
Yeah. I saw the actor being interviewed by Will Wheaton, and he asked him about the hair, and he was like, "Yeah, the hair's like a character on its own." I get asked about the hair all the time.
That's funny.
But yeah, I don't know if it is next week's or if it's. I know it's coming up. It's a musical. It's coming. I
wonder if they're going to have some kind of in-universe reason why they're singing the way they did with the Buffy musical. So.
Yeah.
Like in the Buffy musical, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, they had some kind of special magic thing going on that's making them all sing, and they knew they were singing. Or they could just say, "This is like." What you're seeing is not really singing, but we're seeing it as singing. What's supposed to happen in a musical, basically.
I mean, it's the easy thing for me to pop to is the cue kind of thing, the Trelane, the whatever kind of thing to pop into that somebody's making them do this. If somebody one of us became a cue-like person, you could snap your fingers and have fun with something like that, right? So.
Yeah, you could also do something like, and it's just taking wild guesses here, but you could do something like there's some playwright on board the ship, and they say, "Oh, that was really exciting, the mission that I just got to ride along with y'all in, and I've made a musical based on it, and I want to show you, and it's in the holodeck." And then the whole thing you see after that.
Well, they don't have a holodeck, but yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah, they don't.
But I mean, I imagine it's not going to be so crazy that it goes beyond Picard becoming Robin Hood, right? I mean,
right. If you just saw that, you'd be like, "What?"
There are some really weird Star Treks in the original series, and in the Next Generation, and they kind of got away from the weird.
Like, have you seen the scene with the White Rabbit from Alice in Wonderland?
Right.
McCoy with him.
Right. They kind of got away from that in their, once they left Next Generation. DS9 never really did anything that crazy or wacky like that, and neither did Voyager or even Enterprise. So
about the craziest things they did was the mirror universe stuff, which is very well,
which comes from the original series, right?
Yeah.
So they, it's kind of interesting that because they're going back, it's almost as if they watched all those crazy episodes again and said,
they're trying to,
yeah,
the full spectrum, of silly to serious.
So, which is another reason to be more accepting of this kind of weirdness and stuff. But I will say it's stretching it to the limit.
And it's a challenging thing they're doing because they're trying to do a lot of things at once. They're trying to recapture the spirit of the original series, but also not just be repetitive and have things that are just like another episode of the original series. So how do you be really different and yet not get so far afield that people don't feel like it's Star Trek? It's a really tough little thing they're pulling off there. So far, I'm happy with it.
Yeah. I mean, I love that they didn't do the obligatory everybody's sick, so we get to show our real desires episode so blatantly. But they have done weird twists on it, like whenever they did the whole thing where they were in that storybook kind of thing, like a king and all that. You remember from last?
That was something that you would picture in the original series as well.
But it was such a different, new way of doing it that it was fresh and it was awesome.
And in a way, having Spock become human for a little bit, and then that moves along the thing with him and Chapel,
right?
Him wanting to tell her and all that. So that was kind of a similar concept.
Really good job, honestly.
Yeah.
So, that was our episode. We should have showed up half animated. One of them. Gotta find a filter to do that or something.
That would have been fun.
So that's our take on that. We'll have our episode for the next one out soon, and if the next one is the musical, we'll see if it stretched too far or if it was just right.
Yeah, we'll see. Give us some comments down below if you have questions or comments. Just want to add in your own thoughts.
Star Trek taking it too far? Is it just right? No problem with it? You had issues? Let us know.
Is Star Trek Orville and Orville Star Trek now? What's going on there?
Right. Yeah. Especially the last season of Orville was more Star Trek than
that was super dramatic.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for watching.
Bye bye.